Not one foundational Black American. Oh, here we go. And that's only because I just started watching content from him like a day ago. So what happens is I am offered content from creators like this, and he's not necessarily someone who for whom I search, and I don't think I'll be sticking with him because there are a lot of qualms that I have with his reasoning and things like that. But I do appreciate looking for, the fact that he's a foundational Black American and that's content that that is similar to the content that I'm looking for. It's almost exactly it. But his politics are a little off. But what will happen is I will be off. I'll find one, needle in a haystack, find foundational Black American creator, content creator, and then I'll tune in and what do you call it? Honestly, oftentimes I will find myself disagreeing with one thing or another that's pretty major that leads me to not wanting to watch their content. So I will, move on. But while I'm watching their content, the only thing that will be offered to me that is foundational Black American content will be their channel. So his, for instance. No one else will be recommended, you know, all this other stuff. Um, I just found this white woman as well, and I found her today, like an hour or so ago, a few hours ago. But if you notice, nothing in this feed is from a foundational Black American except that one thing that I pointed to earlier. Nothing in this feed. Maybe this one. And again, as you can see, I watched that. So, all I use YouTube for is to watch educational videos and interesting videos and to, sometimes I'll get a little fun. This isn't an example because I don't watch Mojo, but they've been trying to advertise Mojo to me since I had a YouTube channel. And I have not watched their shit in years. And I'm pretty sure I blocked them at one point, like I just did. But I will find things that I like blocked or ask them not to recommend to me in my feed quicker than I will find a Black American, a foundational Black American. So this is the type of stuff that we be talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what we be saying. Like, people are trying to make it seem as though there is some kind of, vendetta that Black Americans have against, anyone who's an immigrant or anything like that. And that's not the case. People are talking about the fact that we as foundational Black Americans are literally blacklisted. We are blacklisted by everyone and everything. Every single thing that we have ever tried to do in this country has been fought against tooth and nail. And now that immigrants are coming over here from all over the world, including Black countries, they are fighting against us too. Taking our spaces, co-opting them, buying us out, and then, like I said, co-opting the spaces, completely whitewashing them. Essence Festival. And people are trying to claim that, people are just being racist or, I guess, anti-Black and anti-African. And it's like, no, there are people who are being anti-African, just like there always have been, and there are people who are anti-Black American. But you want to talk about that and not about people who are anti-Black American, because we're talking about people who are anti-Black American and the problems that are posed surrounding that. We're talking about the fact that people are coming over here and looking down upon us and then taking from us and completely co-opting our culture. There's no reason we should be having a versus of foods from different cultures at Essence Festival. that's supposed to be dedicated to Black American culture, foundational Black American culture. Essence started off as a magazine that was dedicated to Black, foundational Black American culture. And it was, I believe, started in the 70s or 80s. And it was amazing. It was up there with Ebony and a few others. And we had three Black magazines in my house. I forget what the other one is, but we had Ebony and Essence. And, obviously over the years it's changed, all that good stuff. It was sold to, people outside of the demographic and who are African, I believe Liberian, and Liberian. And yeah, but it's just insane. It's just like, what are we doing here, y'all? Like, how are you going to sit here and tell Black Americans that we are doing too much, that we don't have a right to our culture? You know what I'm saying? And the problem with conflating Black American, foundational Black American culture with other cultures throughout the Black diaspora is that we end up getting lost in the sauce. We have a very specific culture, and it is not just all are welcome, anybody can come in and claim it. We have a specific culture that is specific to our people. We are a people. I know people like to, get lost in the sauce of the African, we come from Africa thing, and we do. Our ancestors, generations and generations and generations and generations and generations and generations and generations ago. We have been in on this continent for half a millennia at least. We are a whole nother people. We also are mixed, not just with the people who were here when we got here and have been here throughout the years, but we also are mixed with all of the different tribes from whence we hail. So, you got Nigerian, Kenyan, South African, Zimbabwean, Cameroonian, all in one person. You know what I'm saying? And then white and Native American because of all that extra stuff. Creole people, Gullah Geechee people, but we don't have culture in America, foundational Black Americans. Meanwhile, our culture is exported all over the world and people feel so entitled to it that they claim it as their own and claim that we don't have any motherfucking culture whatsoever. No culture. No culture. While everybody has taught themselves how to rap or how to sing any of the genres of music that we created, R&B, jazz, hip hop, soul, Motown, funk, punk, rock, all of it, disco, house. But we're just sitting here with no culture. The biggest artists throughout the history of the world come from America. And many of them are Black, foundational Black Americans. Yet, we don't produce nothing. We don't do nothing. I'm so sick of seeing everybody dress like us, talk like us, act like us, and then tell us that we ain't shit. How we ain't shit? You decked out head to toe in foundational Black American culture, but we ain't shit and we ain't got none. It don't make no sense. There's this dude named Mexican OT couch potato if I've ever seen one. And maybe a year ago or so, he came out on this show talking about how, and he was on Angela Yee's podcast at one point too, and she got backlash for it because she let him say the N word and say that, try to punk everybody out in the room. And ain't nobody do nothing about it. Ain't nobody kick him out the studio. You ain't gonna tell me they ain't got security. How you doing it big and you ain't got no security? How you even doing it and you ain't got no security? What the fuck is you letting random ass motherfuckers up in your place for? And you got all these black women up in here, non-foundational Americans, mind you. And you letting some random ass, allegedly gang banging ass, I'm assuming, uh, you know, Mexican dudes up in the doggone crib, and you ain't fucking vetting them, and you ain't fucking making certain you got protection up in there so that you can, if you want someone to leave, you can make them leave. Don't tell me that you didn't have protection up in there. But he gets on there and he says, what's somebody gonna do about it? You know what I'm saying? Him saying the N-word is his culture, this, that, and the third. And in a clip from him saying something similar on another podcast, trying to get famous on some dumb shit, he, because who the fuck is this motherfucker? He goes over and speaks on another podcast, and he is, well, in the comment section, there's a Mexican guy who is, I'm assuming, older, and he's claiming that they didn't talk like that when they were kids, and they didn't say the N-word, and you don't know what the kids are doing nowadays. And some motherfucker in the comment section gets in there and be like, well, the blacks, they use our word homie, and he's like, it's just slang, so and so and so and so. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I had to school this motherfucker and let him know that homie, homeboy, spelled I-E or E-Y, home slice, home skillet biscuit, that's all derived from, of course, homie, which is black culture. Yes, you can trace the origins of the word to, outside of America, but it has different connotations and all that other stuff. But foundational black Americans created the word as we know it, well before the Latin American community was formally welcomed into the United States. Yes, I know the history of some of the United States being some of their land and then others being Native American land and all that good stuff. But we have to also acknowledge that if we're going that far back, they weren't even freaking Latinos at that point. So technically, that was a whole nother people. But, that's a whole nother conversation. But, I mean, it's like me as a Creole woman trying to claim, this, that, and the third about, Native Americans. Like, I can claim it to a certain extent, but it's like, really? I mean, come on now. Like, who do I know in my family who's Native American? Well, my great-grandmother. But I didn't know her. But anyway, yeah, so it's just like, my whole thing is, there is suppression out here. I just looked at a couple of videos from a few people's channels talking about the suppression, and I'm about to look at some more. But I decided to make one of my own. I was really just recording this as evidence for a class action suit that I'm planning to bring against these platforms, because every single one of these platforms has forms of discrimination. Every single one of them. Every one of them has an algorithm issue that suppresses foundational black American content and just black content in general, but especially foundational black American content. Unless it is, nigga shit and other things that paint us in a bad light. So if someone's having a discussion, even if it's one of us, having a discussion about how we're so this, that, and the third kind of bad and wrong, that will not be suppressed usually. That'll even be promoted by the algorithm. So it's insane because it's like, and then you got places like TikTok that, you know, completely ban certain hashtags. Most of the hashtags that I can, well, a lot of the hashtags that I use when it comes to identifying black issues, specifically black issues, unavailable. You cannot use those hashtags. You can't use anti-black. You can't use anti-blackness. And when I make videos about these types of things, because there's no explaining that, you can't get around that. Like, there's no way that you can say that that's not anti-black and discrimination of a whole demographic of people. So this is a class action lawsuit, and I know it is, because you can't tell me that you're banning terminology that is used to promote the well-being of an entire demographic of people. The same type of fucking, and the equivalents are being allotted through the platform for use, like anti-Semitism and things like that. Why is it okay to call for there to be a hashtag that reads anti-Semitism, but there's no anti-black hashtag? I can't use anti-black. I can't use anti-blackness. I'm surprised I was able to use blackness the other day. But anti-black, no, 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 no. Because they don't want you to have a conversation about anti-blackness. That's what it translates to. That's how we have to understand that. You know? There's no other reason that you would ban a hashtag like that without there being, you know, it's not like you're banning the N-word or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like you're banning a word that's bad. You're banning a word that is calling out, you know, a position, calling out a disposition that is in an ideology that is absolutely unacceptable. That's what, and they know that. That's why anti-Semitism is available. But when you're a marginalized community and you don't have big dollars backing you and all this other stuff, when that's the case, you know, like people who would be considered Semites in the modern world, even though anyone practicing an Abrahamic religion is a Semite, look it up. So that would be Christians, Arabs who practice Islam and all that other stuff. But, you know, it's just ridiculous. But I just wanted to make this video real quick. I really wanted to have my face in this type of a video, but because that usually gives me more views. But I'm doing my hair right now, so it's just impossible. But I really needed to get this out because it's just really pissing me off that I keep running into this. Like, I'm having to go out of my way to, that's what triggered this, to look for foundational Black American content creators through YouTube because they're not being offered to me. And I've, you know, been reluctant to, well, at least I was in the beginning, reluctant to call out that I had seen so many non-Black Americans, or excuse me, so many non-foundational Black Americans, and just Black people's content in my feed. So I was seeing, like, you know, first generation immigrant content and like first generation American content and like, you know, immigrant content and content from people who are straight up in fucking Kenya or Nigeria or South Africa or what have you. And I'm just like, as wonderful as that is, now I've gotten to the point at which I have to literally block the stuff. Like, I have to literally put do not recommend, do not recommend, do not recommend on these channels because when I listen to one African person, my whole feed is littered with African people. But when I listen to when I find the one needle in a haystack, Black, foundational Black American person, you know, someone who was born in America of ancestors that have been in this country for generations. When I look for that kind of content and I finally find a needle in a haystack, I'm not littered with a whole bunch of other videos like that, a whole bunch of other creators like that. But every other creator or type of creator I look for, if I look for something like Mr. Beast, all kinds of content. If I look for someone like, you know, just a regular random African girl, you know, I know people like hate when you say Africa, you know, If I look for, just a regular girl from somewhere in West Africa or something like that, you know what I'm saying? Oh my gosh, it's a problem. Or excuse me, it's millions of people, millions of options popping up after that. But when I'm looking for our content, it's nowhere. Unless, like I said, it's problematic. So this is a problem, and I'm definitely going to be getting down to the bottom of this because this is the problem that I have with these things, and this is why I don't play these games with this AI bullshit. I was talking with my foster father about this, and we have little discussions or whatever and debates about certain things once in a blue moon. And this time it was about AI, and he's just so happy-go-lucky about it. He's one of those people who like, I mean, he's really the stereotypical like wealthy white guy. To be honest with you, like, I won't say he's not super rich or anything like that, but like, you know, he's doing well for himself. He's actually able to live the American dream. I'm not saying that I know everything about his struggles or anything like that, but he definitely ain't. Oh, he ain't doing it like me. I'll tell you that much. Shit. But what do you call it? And I ain't got no kids. I ain't got nobody else to worry about but myself. He's got a whole family, multiple kids. But anyway, he has had a very nice life. There's never been a moment that he was poor. There's never been a moment that he was, wanting for anything. And he's gone to some of the best schools and done some really cool things. So, and is still doing things. So, what do you call it? He's a pretty cool guy. And but he's got this this happy-go-lucky way of thinking about things that like ignores all of the obvious truths about this world and purports that everything is okay and everything is on the up and up until it's proven otherwise. And we all know that that's not how this world works. So when it comes to something like AI, he's so excited for like the prospects and all this other stuff, and he's like, the naysayers are just gonna get left behind and yada yada. And I'm just like, what about data missingness? What about biases within the people who ushered in the advent of AI at Dartmouth and the people who are maintaining the algorithms and the systems now? What about the fact that we know that their biases are being programmed into these systems intentionally and unintentionally? Do you know what I'm saying? What about the myriad reports of Black people facing discrimination because of AI when it comes to racial profiling, being accused of crimes that they didn't commit? So this is my problem with this shit because it's like you got some of the same racist people who get online and like ban you from fucking anime clubs and from fucking fantasy fiction fan clubs like the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and things like that because you're not white enough or you're too black or whatever the case may be. These same people who, believe that the films nowadays are just too woke and Hollywood is so woke and that's why everything is flopping, and it's not just because they're getting horrible fucking talent to play in horrible fucking films, a lot of which shouldn't even be fucking created. You know? Those same people are the ones who are making the decisions. They're running your lives because they are ushering in this new technology that the world has not seen before. So they get to make the rules. And we know how long and arduous the trek has been to get our rights without this arena. So now we're moving into a new arena where racists are literally making all of the rules. They're making this world and they're making the rules to go with it. And they're simultaneously putting out legislation that bans us from being able to critique, fix, or make any kind of laws about AI. So get ready for the two-tier society because it's something else. I don't know if you all have seen it, but I'm about to restart it. I think right now, actually. Corporation, or no, Incorporated. It's this series that came out back in the, I think it was the mid 20 teens or something like that. And it only went for one season. Yeah, it was 2016. And it's just horrible. It's a horrible reality of what would be if we go the route that we're going, basically. You're able to pick out your baby's eye color, or excuse me, you're able to pick out your baby down to the eye color. You get to determine what they're going to look like at birth, basically. Well, really, you get to determine what they're going to look like as a toddler, as like still a baby, but a baby who's been around for at least a few months, you know? And what do you call it? You lay on a freaking table and you could be on the verge of death and be stitched up with your guts hanging out and be stitched up and, literally brand spanking new in 2 seconds when this machine scans you and fixes your ailments. So it's like this whole new society that is comprised of the haves and the have-nots, basically. So you've got people who work for the corporations and the people who don't. The corporations lead the world basically like they're their own governments, they're their own cities, they're their own entire situations, sovereign nations, basically, within the United States, for instance. And there's this big dome built around the corporations, all of them. And you work for your own different corporation, but, you know, they all work in tandem to support this dome that keeps all of the, have-nots on the other side. And it is very dangerous if you go out there and you're not a have-not. So it is very dangerous if you go into the dome and you are not a have. So what do you call it? Basically, you have to work your ass off and produce for the company. And the moment that you, and I mean the moment that you are fired and have no ability, well, I mean, you don't have ability once you're fired. So the way it works is, and I think this is why the show failed because people didn't want, they knew that this was coming and they didn't want this type of thing to kind of get people prepared, I guess, for it. It was just a little too on the nose. That's what I feel because I always think about this show and no one knows about it. And it makes sense because it only had one season. But, like, it came out in 2016. Like, who wasn't watching shit in 2016? You know? And what do you call it? Basically, the way that it worked is that you didn't even really get paid a salary. Like, you did, but where you lived was like taken out of your salary by your corporation and it was provided for by your corporation. So like if you wanted a home, you figured out where in town you wanted to buy your home and your corporation would provide that home for you. Or basically like you would pick from the corporation's homes and then you find one, move into the neighborhood and you have a card that basically has all of your information, all of your identification, including your money stats and everything on it. And that is provided by the corporation. So, needless to say, if you are fired, you lose everything. It's crazy. And sometimes people sneak out of the dome to, the haves sneak out to go party with the have-nots, and you could get kidnapped. If they recognize you, they could snatch your ass up real quick, kidnap you, cut your ear off, send it home to your parents, and demand a ransom while they decide which next body part they're going to cut up and send. It's crazy. And they can do stuff like this because they know, with like no care, because they know that even though you're in pain and you're a human like them, you will be able to go as long as your parents save you, or whoever it is, you will be able to go back to within the dome and get healed in 2 seconds. You'll be stuck with the trauma, but you will be physically healed. Your ear will be back, all of it. So, what do you call it? I'm gonna leave it at that because one, I've only seen like 1 or 2 episodes. I think I only saw the first episode. And two, I don't want to, spoil it too much for you guys, but it's really good. Basically, this guy, I think, starts to realize, the main character, he starts to realize that something's off and that this world can't continue to run like this. Because they don't really know what's going on with the have-nots, And I think he ends up finding out, and people end up telling him, making it clear, you don't want to be asking questions about stuff like this. And I think he ends up getting fired because he had already asked too many questions or something. I forget. But it's crazy because it reminds me of, like I said, the situation with the show, seeing as it was canceled. So it's like, what the fuck? I know it didn't get bad reviews because people love movies like that, and TV shows. But I'm going to leave it at this. I am a pre-law student, so I am going to, like I said, look into what can be done about a class action lawsuit because this is ridiculous. And there has to be something here tangible for a case because you can't tell me that this is acceptable. You can't tell me that it's acceptable that I saw a black woman arguing with a man in the comments of a Facebook video of a man being arrested with his children in the back seat of his hot car, and the cop had no care about his kids, arresting him over a minor traffic violation that allegedly didn't even occur. And the black woman is, passionately claiming that he needs to be investigated and all this other stuff. And this white dude with the picture of a white baby as his profile picture calls her a bitch and all kinds of shit, and a man and all kinds of shit. And I'm just like, what? And he spelled bitch out, bitch, no problem. She responded using the word, but of course, knowing that she had to spell it differently, because we will be flagged for that within a shorter amount of time than it will take to report something like that. So we're being hawk-eyed and we're being flagged by the platform. And she had to spell bitch with an X instead of an I. And she was just referring to what he called her. She wasn't calling him a bitch. And, so I don't think her comment was, obviously it wasn't banned because I was able to see it. But it's just crazy because it's like, I called out in the comment section how Instagram will sit here and see things like that and allow that to happen. And if you don't see it, then it just goes to show that we're being watched and white people are not. So there's no win. There's no win in the situation. You can't win if you're Instagram in this situation, aside from just, owning the shit and the fact that you're winning by, suppressing our shit. But you can't explain that shit away. So, just another example of how we are constantly watched, surveilled, punished, but everybody else is able to get away with murder.